Hello friends, I hope you're well. Today, I would like to talk to you about a very new study that looked into long duration exercise in pregnancy. It's called Miles and Maternity, and it tackles something rarely studied. What happens when people exercise a lot during pregnancy, as in beyond the current guidelines? This study has helped answer questions like, is it safe to train for long durations whilst pregnant? Does it affect labor? Does it have any postpartum effects? So let's dive in. The researchers surveyed 331 pregnant people who were already doing endurance exercise throughout gestation, and often much more than the typical guidelines recommend. Current global guidelines suggest that pregnant folk should move for at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week. But they don't really say how long individual sessions can be. Recommendations range anywhere from 10 minutes to 60 minutes. So the Miles and Maternity study asked, what happens when people do exercise bouts lasting over 60 minutes, especially in the third trimester? So here are the key findings. Participants who exercised more than 300 minutes per week in the third trimester had significantly lower odds of delivery complications compared with those who stayed within the standard guidelines. This suggests that in a fit and active population, longer durations of training may be linked with better outcomes during labor and delivery. However, the study also found that exceeding 300 minutes per week in the third trimester was associated with a higher likelihood of diastasis recti. Now, this doesn't mean that long exercise caused damage, but it correlated with a higher incidence of this postpartum finding in this survey group. Now, instantly we could come away from this and think, oh, well, I have to do tons of exercise and now I feel really bad because I can't do over 300 minutes a week. Who can realistically do over 300 minutes a week, etc., etc., etc. So let's unpack it. This study does not say that everyone should aim for over 300 minutes per week, especially if you weren't active before pregnancy. It shows that in a population who were already highly active and doing long sessions, higher volumes were well tolerated and linked with fewer delivery complications. There's a correlation there, not necessarily a causation. It also suggests there could be a higher chance of postpartum diastasis, but that is something that needs further research and context. This is not a randomized controlled trial. This was a survey. People self-reported what they did and what happened. So that means associations don't prove causation. Confounding factors exist: nutrition, genetics, previous training, biomechanics, and it does not prove that exceeding guidelines causes these outcomes. But it does give a real-world insight into what can happen when people are exercising a lot during pregnancy, especially those who were fit before and throughout gestation. We already know from existing research that moderate exercise during pregnancy is safe and beneficial. It is not linked to any preterm birth or adverse neonatal outcomes. We know that being active supports maternal cardiovascular health, mood, and metabolic health. And we know that some people can continue fairly intense training during pregnancy, especially if they were highly active before. What this new study adds is nuance. It suggests that more extensive endurance work, well over general guidelines, appears generally well tolerated in active individuals and may be associated with specific outcome differences. So how could we translate this if you are already pregnant? If you were already very active before pregnancy, longer sessions over 60 minutes, if you want to do them, may be tolerated quite well. And in this survey, they were associated with fewer delivery complications. If you weren't active prior to pregnancy, don't interpret this study as a reason to suddenly chase high weekly volumes. Start with guideline-based activity and progress gradually in partnership with your care team. If you love endurance activities like running, cycling, swimming, you may be able to keep doing those throughout pregnancy, but always listen to your body and adjust intensity and duration based on your comfort, symptoms, and your healthcare guidance. This study is an important early look at the upper end of exercise during pregnancy, a topic we don't really have much evidence on, and it also helps expand our understanding beyond 150 minutes per week to what very active people actually do and how that can relate to some outcomes. But remember, this is just one study with limitations. This is not a prescription or a strict rule.